So now that we have our models, we have this sample data for products and users, I want to create a database seeder so that we can easily import some sample data, which are going to be users and products. So in the backend folder, I'm going to create a new file called seeder.js. And this isn't going to be like part of our application in any way. It's a separate script that we can run to import data. So we need to bring everything in separately. So let's bring in Mongoose, because we're going to need to use our Mongoose models. So let's do Mongoose, and we want to import .env because our Mongo URI is in the .env file, and if you want access to that from here, we need to bring this in. Another thing I want to bring in is colors, just to add some colors to the console. And then we'll bring in our users, the data that we created in the last video. So import users from, and this is going to be ./data/users.js. We also want to bring in our products data. So products. Now we want to bring in all three user models. So let's say import user from, and it's going to be ./models/user-model.js, and we're going to bring that down twice because we also want our product model. So product and order should be our order model. Now we're not actually creating any orders with this seeder, but I want the ability to destroy all users, products, and orders. So we do need the model to remove data. So let's say import, we want to bring in our connect.db, and that's going to be from ./config/db.js. All right, now for the .env, remember we have to call config, and then we have to call connect.db, and we're doing this stuff again because this is in no way connected to our server. It's completely separate. Now I'm going to create two functions here. One is going to be import data, and one is going to be destroy data. Now this is going to be asynchronous because we're dealing with the database, we're dealing with Mongoose, so everything returns a promise. Now the first thing I want to do, I want to have a try catch, and the first thing I want to do is clear all three collections out completely. So we can take the model, we'll do order first, and we can use any Mongoose methods we want here. I'm going to use delete many and not pass anything in. That means that it's going to delete everything. Now this returns a promise, so we do have to add a wait in front of it. And then we're going to do the same for products. So, whoops, what am I doing? We don't want to do that. We want to change this to product. And here we'll use the user model and delete many. So that's going to clear all of those, because I don't want to import anything with stuff already in the database. So it's going to completely wipe it out. Now we're going to import the users, so we can say await, take the user model, and then insert many and pass in users, which is the data that we're getting from up here. So we're passing this in, users, into this. Now we have a connection between products and users, and I want the admin user to be the object ID for all the products. We only have one admin, so we want that admin to be connected. So what I'm going to do here is create a variable called created users, which is going to put the created users into this variable. So this will be an array of the created users. Make sure I put an S there. And then I want to get the admin user from that array. So let's say const admin user, and we're going to set that to created users, which is an array. We want the first item, so 0, and we want the underscore ID field. Okay, now I put 0 in here. It's going to be the first item because it's the first item in this user's JS. Okay, so it's going to be this user. Now that gets put into that variable. So now for the products, I'm going to create a variable called sample products, and let's set this to the products that we brought in, and I'm going to map through this and add the admin user to each one. So the way we can do that is in map we add let's add, we'll say for each product, I want to then return an object with all of the stuff that's in the product already. So I'm going to use the spread operator, which will spread across all of the data that's already there. In addition to that, I want to add to the user field the admin user that I pulled from here. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. It's just going to be products, but with the addition of the user, of the admin user. Now, we haven't done anything in the database yet. This is just going to be stored in this sample products. So now we want to call await, take the product model, and say insert many, just like we did above with users, and pass in the sample products, which is going to be all the product data, including the admin user. Now, once we do that, we're going to just console log, and I'm going to log data imported, and let's just add on here, we'll say .green .inverse, so we'll use colors here, and then let's do process. We just want to exit from the process, and if there's something goes wrong here, we'll do a console error, and let's pass in here, we'll pass in whatever that error is, and let's make it red and inverse. And then here we just want to exit, process.exit, but we want to exit with failure, so I'll pass in a 1. So that's import product, our import data. Let's copy this and create another function, and this one is going to be destroy data. And all I want this to do is this, just get rid of everything. So we can get rid of these lines, just keep the console log, and let's change it to data destroyed, and we'll make this red. Process exit, this can stay the same. Now, the way we're going to be able to call this is with node backend / Cedar. And what I want to do is have that do the import, and if I want to destroy the data, I want to add a -d. Now, to get this value here, we have this process.argv, which is an array, and the toIndex is going to be whatever's passed in here. So we can check that. We can say if this, if that is equal to -d, then we know we want to destroy the data. So we'll call that else. So if that's not passed in, then we want to call import data. All right, now I could run this, but instead of having to do that, let's add an npm script. So under package.json, let's go right here and say data:import, and let's set that to node backend / Cedar, and then I'll copy that down, and this one is going to add the -d, and this is going to be data destroy. Okay, so we should be ready to try this out. I have Compass open, and you can see I just have an empty products collection. So I'm going to go down here and run npm run data:import. So we get data imported. Let's check it out. We'll go back to Compass. Now to refresh this, you can go up to View and then Reload Data. And now, as you can see, in the products collection, we have all of our products, and we have an object ID. We also have the user. Now the user, notice, is the same for all of them. It ends with C81, C81, C81. And if we go to users, the admin user has the object ID that ends with C81. So he's basically he or she is the owner of all the products, or the one that created all of them. And then we have these other users, John Doe and Jane Doe, and notice the password is hashed. Okay, so now that we have some sample data, let's try to destroy it. So if we do data destroy, data destroyed, and if I go back and I'm going to go up to View, Reload Data, and now it's empty. Now you want to be very careful if you're starting to develop the application and you have some orders and you add more products and stuff like that. If you run either one of these, it's going to replace everything. So just be very careful with this. I just basically want to use it in the beginning just to get some initial data. But be careful running this when you already have some stuff in there. In fact, you might want to even just delete it afterwards. All right, so now that we have some data, let me just double check that that went through. Okay, so we have products and users. So in the next video, I want to start to fetch data from the database in our back end so that ultimately we can, in our front end, make our requests to the routes and get data from the database, as opposed to right now, it's just getting from products.js, which is probably, yeah, it's gonna break now because we remove the ID. So we'll start to do that next.